It was when I had to stop the blame and stop the excuses and look in the mirror and say, Melissa, sure, all this stuff happened to you, but if you want to live, like you said, if you choose to live, then you have to look in the mirror because it is up to me to get myself out of it.
Welcome to Your Journey to Joy podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski, and I'm on a mission to help you find joy in the chaos of life. As a retired nurse, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and mom of 4 adult children, I know what it's like to feel the overwhelm of it all and wonder if and when the joy will show up again. And I've learned it's up to us to go find that joy. On this show, you will hear inspiring stories from those who have overcome all kinds of life challenges, tips on how to stay healthy and vibrant during the ups and downs of life, and simple ways on finding joy in your own life. Let's face it, life is messy, yet when we travel together on this journey, support and encourage each other along the way, that joy starts to show up again. I'm so excited to lead you on this journey of you to find the joyful life that you deserve. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am your host, Moyra Gorski, and so glad that you're here today. I love to connect with other women that are doing great things in the world. And today, my guest is Melissa Glick. I found her through LinkedIn, who I am just loving LinkedIn and loving the connections that I find over there. And what I love about Melissa is so many things, but just what I talk about often on this podcast is, again, we want to find joy in our life, but we also know that there's chaos in our life. And there's also things that stand in our way, and there's things that we allow to stand in our way so that we don't find the joy that we're looking for and really live the most fulfilled life. So Melissa helps women with that, really just get things out of their way that are in their way and really help them, do what they love and love what they do. So without any further talking by me, welcome, Melissa. I'm so glad that you are here today and honored that you are taking the time with me.
Of course, I feel honored that you asked me to participate in this because when we talked, I was like, oh my God, I could just talk to her forever. We have so many things in common. We didn't even scratch the surface on so many of them. So it's a surprise for you all what ends up coming out.
Right.
50-minute conversation, because I don't think either one of us have any idea.
We don't. And like I said before, I just have a few notes, but this is what I love to do is just talk with women and connect and then share, because I know that what's supposed to be talked about today will fill me for sure. And it'll be wonderful for those that listen to this when it goes live. So I've spent lots of time talking about addictions and overcoming challenges and things like that. And when we first spoke, you had some pretty significant health changes in the last many years and told me that you had food addictions. So I'd love for you to, I love for my guests to kind of start out with their story, because oftentimes the story of their life or a certain part of their life has given them the reason for what they're doing today. And so let's just start a little bit with your story and kind of that health piece, if you will.
Sure. So I'm going to have to go back 40 years to when I was 10, really. That's when I started to develop an unhealthy relationship with my body and food. I heard messages growing up from people I loved, from kids, from just being mean, just everyone around me, that I didn't look okay. I was a little chubby, and it's so crazy is when I look back at pictures of myself. It just, my heart breaks for that little girl, because I really wasn't. I was, but the message that I heard was that I didn't look okay, and that if I didn't change, that I wouldn't be picked. That was a central theme of my childhood, was that if I didn't look a certain way, if I didn't lose weight, if I didn't kind of look like the other girls, I wouldn't get picked for really anything. And so I just developed this sense of not being good enough. And how I compensate, or how I figured out I could compensate for that, was by finding other ways to be good enough. And it was grades. It was then when I'm older, it was extracurricular activities. It wasn't really sports. I wasn't really athletic. And so it was a lot of more like intellectually achievement type extracurricular things. And then in college, I just got very into my career and what I wanted to do. And I started with the internships, and I was able to find a sense of self-worth through external achievements. And that led to a whole life of just hammering myself with wanting more and more and more and more and more to kind of fill this emptiness, not feeling good enough, because none of it really worked.
Mhm.
None of it made me feel good enough. And because I felt so crappy all the time, the achievement only lasted for so long until I was on to the next thing. The thing that made me feel good, no matter what, was food. And I mean, that started when I was 10. And 4 years ago, it became the biggest problem when I was morbidly obese. I was on 8 medications for my obesity-related illnesses, and COVID showed up. And people who were most at risk of getting COVID and dying from it were the people who had all of the comorbidities that I had. And I was terrified. That was a moment where I was like, I have to get a handle on this in a way that I haven't done it before. And I cannot live like this anymore. I have to do something. I don't want to die this way. Like, ashamed and embarrassed. I had so much shame and so much embarrassment over how I had let myself get so out of control with the binge eating that it, caused me to have all these problems. And now, like, death is knocking on my door. I can't go outside. I can't be with people, because if I get one tiny microscopic germ, I could die, like from a cold. It just was crazy. And so that was the kind of breakthrough for me that started a transformation in my health. And I have spent a lot of time in the last couple of years understanding where my addiction came from. And it really came from this feeling of low self-worth.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Thank you for sharing that. I mean, with the work that I've been doing with myself as well in the last couple of years, there's a lot that happens when we're younger, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. They say that so much is embedded in us, if you will, or we're influenced by so many things in that time of our life, and then we carry it with us. And sometimes we don't. What I heard, or I was thinking of as you were talking about that, is sometimes we don't even realize it. We're like a high achiever. We make good grades. We get a great job after college. We're a high achiever, and everyone's giving us these praise, and everything looks great on the outside, right? But on the inside, we're just like, there's something wrong. There's something missing. Like, what is that? And, I commend you before I say that, is like, then sometimes we get this wake up call, or we get this realization, or a pandemic hits, or a cancer diagnosis hits, and we're like, what is going on here? And like you do, at least my own experience, I was faced with a choice. I sat outside of that hospital where I got the results, and I was similar, like, I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when you say cancer, often we think of dying. So yeah. I want to live. You had the pandemic. You chose to live. And it's not an easy thing, because after you make that statement, then there's a lot of work to be done if you want to live. But that's, again, so many points there, but just that realization that a lot of this stuff starts from a long time ago. And what I've also had to give myself grace for and apologize to myself for is that, my parents did the best they could do. And those people, perhaps when they said things, didn't realize the impact that it was having. And generations and generations of moms and women and parents, like they were doing the best that they could.
Right.
And so I did the best I could with what happened to me. And I think, again, what you and I are sitting in this space of and encourage women to is like, if you're willing to look at that and pull it back a bit, and again, look at what's underneath all of that, there's, and work through that, there's some great healing and a great life ahead because of that.
There was a time when I thought this is just how it's going to be because this was what happened. This is my trauma that I had. This is just my life. I'm going to have to live like this. I just need to figure out how to be okay with it. And I would come up with all these excuses as to why it was like that. You know, my past happened, or these are my genes, or, you know, I'm just not strong enough to conquer this. And all these millions of excuses that I would tell myself that led me to continue down that path. When I was finally ready, it was when I had to stop the blame and stop the excuses and look in the mirror and say, Melissa, sure, all this stuff happened to you, but if you want to live, like you said, if you choose to live, then you have to look in the mirror because it is up to me to get myself out of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's not an easy feat. And I mean, I think any type of weight loss, health transformation is difficult because again, we're changing habits, we're changing patterns. I mean, I think yours was pretty significant though. I mean, you had a really large, really big weight loss. And I say that again, not to be like, to put any specifics on numbers, but the fact that takes a while, right? It takes a while to lose 100 pounds, right? At least if you're losing it the right way to keep it off, to look as beautiful as you are, looking today. So I think what I love to talk about in that realm is like, how did you keep going? Because again, I coach women, and a lot of women, it's like, okay, same thing, excuses, or I tried this and, oh, it's just so hard. And like, they're trying things for a month. And it's like, okay, but it's kind of a lifetime of things. Like, how do you keep going? How did you what were those changes you started to make?
So it was one of those people that really submitted to diet culture, and that, I wasn't ever going to be happy unless I was skinny. So that is the first thing that I think you kind of have to wrap your head around is why, why do you want to lose weight? Is it because you think something is going to be better if you're skinny? You think more men are going to find you attractive? You're going to look better in your clothes? Are you going to be healthier? Like, what is it that is causing you to feel like you need to lose weight? And for me, it was all of the above. But what's really the problem with that is that I just never felt like I was still good enough. And when you don't address that, it doesn't matter if you lose the weight, because you're still going to feel not good enough once you lose the weight if you don't address the mental side. Because there's a lot of physical component of losing weight, and you've got to exercise, and you've got to, eat enough calories, but that you feel full and you're nourished, but not too much that you're, eating in excess of what your body can process. But then it's the mental side too, that you're never going to be able to conquer weight loss if you do not conquer the mental part of that. So how I started was it's kind of crazy, but I was extremely sedentary at the time because I'd never been more unhealthy than I was in March of 2020. I was the most overweight that I had ever been. I was the most depressed. I was the most burned out. And I said, if I'm going to do something, if I choose to live, I love when you said that. I'm going to use that. If I'm choosing to live, I have to start right now, immediately. And the way that I was going to do that was by walking. And I was afraid to even walk outside because I didn't want people to see me and point their finger in my neighborhood and say, oh my God, and Melissa's walking. How did she's fat, she's big. Like, how did she even let that happen to her? She's a smart girl. I didn't want people to associate walking with me that way. So I wanted to walk in my house, in my garage, hiding. So I found a treadmill on a Facebook garage sale page. And I went up with my dad to put it in his pickup truck. We set it up in my garage and I started walking for 5 minutes. The same day that I got the treadmill, and I kept walking on that thing. And, it wasn't just the physical movement. It was that this promise that I made to myself, this pledge that I was going to show up every single day and walk on that damn treadmill. And after the days turned into weeks, like something really remarkable happened, which was it kind of created this ripple effect into other areas to where I started to gain momentum. And I started to be able to meal prep and make choices that nourished my body, and eating things that weren't like slider foods that just you ate and you never felt nourished because they're not nutritional. And those are the kinds of foods that I've been eating for so long. And I had this momentum to keep going. And so when, back to your question of how were you able to keep going? It was just like starting really, really small and just doing it like immediately.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've heard it at different webinars or seminars that I've gone to. I mean, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Mm-hmm. And so that just popped in my head when you said that, because it can be small, but that's the really cool thing about just starting small in one area, because really it starts, like you said, in one area. And then before you know it, you feel like, wow, I conquered 7 minutes on the treadmill today. And so now I can conquer making 3 phone calls today, or putting my salad together, or figuring out a new crock pot recipe or something like that. It really, it seems like a simple statement, but it's so true. And I often challenge people with that a lot. It's like, well, the way you do one thing, you're like, oh, I just can't get this done. Well, again, I have to challenge myself with it too. Like, kid, how am I showing up here? And how is that showing up? How's that working for me in other areas of my life? And so that's cool. I mean, I could even feel the energy, shift as you talked about that, because again, it's really cool when, again, it seems like it's overwhelming, but if we keep at it, then it gets perhaps easier. Or again, you get that momentum. I like what you said, that momentum.
Right. And I will say that I did not do this alone. I had a lot of help. I worked with my doctor. I worked with a nutritionist. I had a trainer. It wasn't just all at once, but I had a team of people who were on board with me, who were supporting me, who were helping me maintain accountability, who were checking in with me, and most importantly, that were making me understand the mental side of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, because it's not just, it's what's going on between, well, people can't see us, but it's what's going on here between our 2 ears. That is such a huge component of any type of change or improvement that we're making in our life.
Weight loss in combination with eating disorders is very difficult, because I was so overweight. I was extremely unhealthy. And I really did need to lose weight because for the reasons that I already said. I was highly medicated and I had a lot of comorbidities and I was unhealthy. And so I had no choice. I had to do it. But with a lot of eating disorders, there's this idea that I need to be skinny because I look better, I feel better or whatever. And I think weight loss has to be on the back burner. It has to be more on the challenge of feeling good where you're at in order to combat an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I again, I'm brand representative for a wellness company that talks, that helps support people getting healthy. But part of that is helping them lose weight. And so in my 25 years of being involved with this company and helping people, and me having an eating disorder and then supporting my daughter for 9 years during her eating disorder, like I had to get clear about how I felt about that, weight loss, being skinny, the numbers on the scale. I thought I had gone through all of that, but it came up a few times. And then I had to, again, figure out what my messaging was to others too, because I didn't want to feed into that diet culture. I didn't want to feed into that, well, come on, let's do it together and let's lose all the weight and let's get, whatever, release the weight and get whatever, I had to get clear about my messaging. And it's tough when you're in a world of, like you said earlier, like this diet culture, and you see this, you hear this, you see this, you look on Instagram and all of these things. It's difficult to block all that out and say, oh, but I'm going to do it differently because it's better that way. But it's hard, but it really is that. Again, I love what happened. Well, you didn't say, but I'm assuming that you're off of your medications. Again, I've supported so many people in losing 10 to 15 pounds. And before you know it, the doctor says, you don't really need that medication for diabetes anymore.
No,
you don't need it for heart.
Anymore.
Yeah.
We are, I don't have to sleep with my CPAP. I'm off my blood pressure medication. I'm off of all those things, and I feel so much better. When you are trying to deal with an eating disorder, food, the control of food makes you feel better. But when you're trying to deal with an eating disorder, it's challenging. And so you can't choose to feel good. You have to choose the challenge and the recovery. And sometimes it doesn't feel good. It's really comfortable. And that's what it feels like to be okay with where your body's at. It doesn't feel good. But I think if you're recovering from something, you have to be okay with that, letting go of feeling good. Because, that's what food did for me. Is it was the one thing that I could control that made me feel good or numb. And I'm letting that go. So I have to find other ways to try and feel good. And sometimes it's just doesn't feel good.
Right. Yeah, you're uncomfortable with that. And I just feel like everything that you just said, because I know I'm watching the clock, because I know we've got some hard stops here. But like everything you said with getting to the why of why you're doing what you're doing, doing the deep work, looking at the shame, looking at what's behind things. Again, talking about the way we do one thing is the way we do everything, getting a team of people to support you and finding accountability and working on your mindset and getting uncomfortable. Like that's all right. You said all that stuff, but then I know you coach women and in their careers. Like, I feel like all of that, what you learned there and what you just told us about just translates right into coaching women, that we have to be uncomfortable, and that if we want to make those changes, we have to have people that are on our team. We've got to ask for help. We have to be accountable. We need to get underneath, why are you doing this? Oh, here's a goal to make an extra $50,000 this year. Why? What does that mean for you? What's the vision or whatever? I wrote it all down. But that's, again, it's really helpful for a health transformation, but I bet you just move that right over into your coaching practice.
Yeah. And I think that's why people kind of turn their ear when they hear me speak, especially because I'm not a eating disorder coach. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a coach that's going to take you on a health transformational journey. What I am is a transformation coach with an expertise in business. And then I weave in my personal experience. I owned a tech company for 15 years. And, with the height of my burnout and depression, beginning of COVID, and it was just a really hard time for me. because I'm leading my team through just the craziest time I could ever imagine running a business. And I'm also at the pinnacle of burnout and at the same time trying to sell my company. So, all this craziness was going on at the same time. And I've made this transformation over the last 4 years and sold my business. And now I'm in a place where I want to be able to help people. This is what I feel like my purpose is like bringing everything together. So I have this amazing experience building and running a business. I have this amazing experience of personal transformation, and I can take both of those and now I can help Melissa 8 years ago. Like I can help somebody who's in a place where their full identity is surrounded around their title, what they do professionally, and I can help them build more of a foundation so that they can see that there's more to it than just the title and the money in the bank. Because once you figure that out, it helps to open up opportunities that can even propel that further, but in a more joyful way. And that's what I feel like I'm really skilled at, what I'm really good at, and what I want to do. And that's how we met, is because now I'm on LinkedIn talking about this, and so are you. But I just get so much joy out of it. And it's the first time in my life, I've been, a professional since I'm 20 years old, so 30 years. My first time in my life where everything is melded together. Like my personal life, my professional life, it all makes sense. It's all working together, and it feels very good.
Brought to you by Gorski Wellness and the possibility of a better you. Are you feeling sluggish? Ready for a change? Need more energy? Up for a bigger challenge? I'm Moyra Gorski, retired nurse and wellness advocate. For over 22 years, I've been helping people live healthier lives while making small changes each and every day. Those small changes lead my clients to living a healthier lifestyle with markedly better health. As a brand ambassador for the Shaklee Corporation, the most clinically proven wellness company in the world, I guide my clients to make healthier choices each day with their food, supplements, skincare, workouts, and mindset. They say getting started is half the battle. Let's make healthy happen together. If you're ready for simple, natural, sustainable solutions to feeling and looking your best, let's connect. You'll find a link in the show notes or reach out to me at moyragorski.com. Here's to a better you.
Me personally, again, things are going great with my business and my life and all that. And as I shared with you before we went live, like we're in the process of selling our home and making a big transition to downsize. And like, I've been just frustrated with, I've been working on some things and creating a course and doing this stuff and trying to find more people that I can coach. And like the universe has just kind of been telling me, just slow down. Like you have some other things, like maybe just move your attention someplace else, or like be like right where you're at. And it's frustrating for me because I'm like, okay, but I want to do all this. I have so much to give. I have so many to help and all this. And the universe is just saying, there's plenty of time for that. Mm-hmm. So for now, you need to focus on what you're doing here and get through this transition. And then when you're at a new place and settled, things will, again, there's plenty of time. So I love to hear when things are all aligned, but also giving light to the fact that sometimes they don't feel that way. And
clear.
I encourage people to like pay attention to that. Like, what's that telling you? It's okay. Don't be so frustrated. Like, but hey, maybe like, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not doing the right thing, or.
Yeah. While I feel in alignment with what I've chosen to do and how I'm doing it, that does not mean that I do not have daily frustrations. Because as you know, this work is hard. There's a lot of us out there. And I think when we are truly ourselves and telling our stories, which is why I like doing podcasts like this and why I think you do this, is because when you do share your story and when you're vulnerable, then people find you, and it really kind of helps you to continue to be in alignment with your purpose by working with the people that, kind of need to find you, the right people. So, but yeah, it's not without its frustration, and being somebody who is actively working on recovery from an eating disorder. I mean, it's not like I'm cured. I'm still working on it. I can very easily fall into the trappings of wanting to feel good at the end of a really hard day. And so I'm always working.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, again, a very important point that I think that life is about always working on things. And it's not like, kind of like when you mentioned at the beginning, this diet culture. I mean, many times people talk about like, oh, and I want to be skinny and I want to be in this and I want to be able to be in this dress for this occasion and all of this. But then, okay, so what happens when you get there? Like, is that it? Like you've reached the pinnacle of like whateverness? I don't know. Like, no, I think the important point is to just keep working on things, and that things are always a journey. And a friend of mine, I saw on social a post that she made just today about feeling like she's an imposter. And she goes, I see all these others and they're doing all these things. They have all these followers and all this stuff. And I feel like, who am I? I'm like, yeah, but look, we all are on our journey of life. And I believe that we become experts by experience, right? We've had these experiences. And so maybe we're not that, but like, who cares? Like, what is that anyway? But we're just, what I tell people is like, I'm just a little farther down the road, perhaps, than you are. And I'm here to just put my hand back and say, hey, come on. And when you say, hey, I'm going through this. Yep, I've been through that. This is how I handle it. Perhaps this is an idea. So we're always on this journey, and it doesn't, and I think, again, the value of a good coach is somebody that continues to do their work. A value of a good therapist is a therapist who has their own therapist, a coach who has their own coach, who's doing their own, that's doing their own work. And if they're not, then perhaps you should look for a new one, because there's always more to learn and always more to do. I mentioned a few things, again, that popped out to me that I felt like you are learning from your recovery journey that you're using in your coaching business. Are there other things that you find that women struggle with that you're really able to help people with, or any particular? I mean, sometimes I'll ask people just, was there an example of somebody that came to you and like, how are they showing up, and what were the things that briefly you were able to help them with, and how did that help them transform?
So one of the women who I worked with recently, and I just loved working with her, she was a marketing executive in her 50s. And she came to me because she was kind of feeling stuck in life. And initially we started, she was feeling like she was just stuck in her career. Everything kind of centered around her career, because she was a career woman. And in talking to her, I really kind of noticed that the other areas of her life were imbalanced. So like everything was just centered around her feelings around her job. And so I asked her a question that kind of blew the roof off of her personal development. And so what I asked her was, pretend I'm a genie, and you can ask me a question, any question you want. The answer to that question is going to change everything for you. What's the question you're going to ask me? And it just came off right off of her tongue. It wasn't what I was expecting, but she said, am I going to be alone forever? And it was in that moment where we both realized that what was making her feel stuck was a loneliness. And because she was so focused on her career and what that meant, she was isolating herself. from connection. And because she had a lack of connection, she had this like idea in her mind that it was just going to be her for the rest of her life. And it was weighing her down. It was causing her to feel stuck in like every area of her life. And so that was how we were able to really kind of craft a plan to expand the other areas of her life. And working with her and holding her accountable to those things, she planned a trip on the Camino, and she took up pickleball, and by doing those things, then she was like reinvigorated with her work, and that ended up actually going better for her. And it's just like all tied together. And I just loved working with her so much because it was just so clear.
Sometimes there are things that, like, again, she planned a trip, she played pickleball. And sometimes we do things that we don't think are exactly related to our business, but it has everything to do with how, we show up for our business. Case in point, again, it made me think. I have a picture here. Don't have much on the walls anymore in my house because my house is almost ready to be shown. But I have a beautiful picture of a ballroom dance competition that I was involved in, a picture of our dance. And yeah, that was something I started at the beginning of in 2020. I was bored. I wanted to go and take a dance class, and it's about learning to dance, but it has translated to so much more for me. It's worked on my confidence, my body image, somebody that's recovered from an eating disorder, and like all of those things, and the way that I show up and the way that I lead or the way that I follow, it's made me a different person. And so it helps me on the dance floor, but it helps me in life too. So when you said that she took a trip and, did pickleball, like those kind of things they seem perhaps just, oh, I'm just going to play a fun game, or I'm just going to go do a dance. But it can even starting my podcast and doing this for 4 years now, like I realize more and more every day, just like you shared, your story has value. My voice has value. When we share our stories, we offer people hope. And so it's so good. It's a great example. And I'm really glad that you shared that.
Yeah, I can relate to the dancing because then, I picked up dancing like 2 years ago. I went to a workshop and learned a Latin dance with bachata workshop, and I just fell in love, and then kind of got so into dancing that I changed my life and moved for part of the year to a place where I can get as much dancing as I want. And because I love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize that. I don't know if I remembered that, but that's again, it's so good. And again, I continue to do it because it's that work. It's that continual work like I want to be able to improve and go up in levels as you do in dance. But I want to continue to experience what that dance, helps me uncover and things like that. As we're getting close to the end of our time here together, again, I want to appreciate that time frame. Share with people where they can find you, and maybe just some last words of things that you want to make sure that people hear today that you can share today.
Okay. So you can find me at melissaglick.com or the Peak CEO, PEAK CEO.com. So that's where you can find me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Melissa Glick. I'm on LinkedIn almost every single day from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Mountain Time. It's been in my office hours where I really engage with my community in the comment section of my daily posts. It's really fun to get other people's opinions, to give advice, to connect, to meet. It's great. I love building a community there. And I guess my piece of advice is I turned 50 this year, and I've never been so vocal about my age. It's weird, where I'm just shouting from the rooftops that I'm 50 years old, because I have done a lot of really cool stuff. I've, been a hyperachiever for a long time, which has served me well in business. I have built a tech business. I sold it. I started a nonprofit. I've won awards. I've been on boards. That's all been really great. I built a real estate portfolio. Like I'm in all standard models successful. But at 50 years old, on May 22nd, 2024, I feel like I am just getting started. So for anyone who's listening to this, like it's never too late to make a change, to do a transformation, to start something new. I feel healthier. I feel more vibrant. I feel more joy and fulfillment in my life today than I think I've ever had. And I guess that's it, just it doesn't, like we said, if we never stop evolving, and if you can get on board with the journey versus the results, I think that you can kind of find that same spark that I found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Again, that's why we've aligned, because I feel the same way. I turned 60 last September. I got a wake-up call in October, and I feel like that was the wake-up call I didn't know that I needed, but I feel like that's the thing. I've made some changes, and I feel like I'm just getting started. And I tell people, like, it's like, why wait? Like, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the diagnosis? Are you waiting for the report from the medical doctor? Are you waiting for the heart attack? Are you waiting for your husband to leave? Like, what are you waiting for? And I've been there. Again, I've been there, and I'm waiting for the apologies, and I've waited for just name it. I've waited for it. And so why are we waiting? And again, I like to, I believe what my purpose in life is to gather women together and provide them a safe space to say yes to themselves and be able to say, yeah, I'm going to live my best life, but I'm going to surround myself with other people, and I'm going to, ask for help, and I'm going to get a hug from, because we need to, when we say that, people may hear that and go, oh, I know, but that's too scary. Yeah, it is. It's really scary. And that work is really tough. But if we surround ourselves and be together with each other and support ourselves, support each other, we can do it. We can help each other along with that. So thank you so much for that. I look forward to our continued conversation on LinkedIn and in life. And I really appreciate you sharing with me today and with my audience. And I know that there's so much goodness and good tidbits that you shared in there. I just wish you the best. And again, thank you so much for being with me today, Melissa.
Feels like we're just hanging around the living room, chatting in a way that's meaningful. And I love that kind of chat.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I'm all about. So thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for coming back and listening and continuing to share these podcasts. Again, it gives me such great joy when I get some feedback from people and say, hey, I found such great value, or I shared it with my girlfriend and she really needed to hear that today. So thanks again, everybody. And we'll catch you up on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Hey there, ready to live a more joyful life? Considering connecting with someone who can help you? If so, I'd like to be that person. I offer a free consultation where we determine where the chaos is in your life and how you can learn to bring more joy each and every day. Visit my website, moyragorski.com, or simply email me, moyra@moyragorski.com, with more joy in the subject line. I look forward to connecting, and I'm here to say there will always be some chaos, which requires a little juggling, but you can find joy and live your life intentionally filled with that joy. Let me help you on your journey to joy. And that's joy, the journey of you.